Joel, I'm going to ask you if you'll come up and start, although you didn't come up the right way. We've actually set some protocols about
I knew that, by the way. It was just a test. I was just testing everybody. Welcome to our satellite campus for Seaside Jewish Community here at Epworth. Really glad to be here in person for our services, and those of you that are watching it remotely, we're glad to have you as well. So thank you for joining us. A couple quick things for those of you that are here in Epworth, a few things that you need to know, some safety things. First of all, if you see something that just seems out of place, say something. That's kind of our mantra. That's what we tell people. We do have a state police officer that's here with us, and as well as if you see people with these little name tag types of things, it means that they're one of the board members or a committee chair here at Seaside Jewish Community. The building has 4 primary exits. 2 are on either side of the lobby. They're accessed through those 5 doors behind us that you probably came in when you entered the sanctuary. There's also 2 side doors, one over there to my right and one over here on the left. If we do need to exit for any reason and make a quick fashion of it, we can do that. There's an AED device. It's located in the lobby over this direction by the Bayside entrance if we did have a need for that. And we do have a first aid kit that's located over in the kitchen, sort of behind where we are by the lobby in the fellowship hall. There's fire alarms that are located throughout the building as well. So this is a very safe building. I always talk about Seaside being safe. Epworth is also a very safe, secure building for our pleasure tonight. So welcome, Shana Tova, and I'll hand things back over to the rabbis.
Kia, our first call to listen, to pay attention to what goes on here over the next today and tomorrow, and then the following week on Yom Kippur. It does feel a little interesting to be here on the bima, and so I don't know about you, but I feel like I need to take a deep breath and kind of just exhale and just let it be. We have come through some pretty difficult times in the last 18 months, let alone not even just the last few months that we've been watching and listening to what goes on around us. And here we are at the beginning of our new year, a time for renewal, a time for taking a step back and taking a look and walking into this new place, this new situation with open eyes and open arms and open hearts. And we come to these services with the same. And so we'll take some time to do a little singing, to do a little liturgy, to do a little listening to words of Torah, and see where it takes us. And we'll start together in the middle paragraph on page 4 in your machzor. And we'll just read that one paragraph together. We come here to seek other values than the ones which too often move the world in which we live. We come here to build into our lives the acts which must respond more to the will of God, however we understand it, than to the will of the authorities of our daily world. We come determined to find values that will restore just rule to an unjust world. And on the top of page 5. To do that, to help to change the world we know, we need to change ourselves as well. To renew ourselves, we need be conscious of our faults, of the hurts we do to others, the hurts we do to ourselves. We need be conscious of the mitzvot, the deeds our people has believed that God desires, which are open to us though we have been closed to them. And so, in this judgment season, we shall look critically into ourselves. We look critically at the world, that we may sharpen all our faculties for the job of renewal ahead. Hayom Haratz Ha'olam. At this moment is the universe conceived. At this moment, all things are possible, and all our dreams, all the best and strong and loving corners of ourselves shall rule.
Hitchu li sharei tzedek.
Your mic is not.
Avovam odeya. Hitchu li sharei tzedek. Avovam odeya. Hitchu li Sharei tzedek avovam odeya. Pitchu li sharei tzedek avovam odeya. Pitchu li sharei tzedek Avovam odeya. Hitchu li sharei tzedek Avovam odeya. Hitchu li sharei tzedek Avovam odeya. Pitchu li sharei tzedek avovam odeya.
Open to me the gates of justice, that I may enter into them and give thanks to God. As we do with all of our worship services, with all of our festivals, with Shabbat, we open up our services with light, with candles. On page 6, I'd like to ask Barry and Reba Novich to come up to light candles. You'll notice that you're probably asking, why are there 4 candles sitting up here on the bima? They actually have special meaning for our candlelighters, which is why they asked, could we please have 4? So the candelabras in which the candles sit, the ones that are closest this way, I believe are Reba's great-grandmother's candlesticks, and the person for whom she was named. And the candlesticks on the far side are Barry's grandmother's candlesticks, and that's the person for whom he was named. So we have special blessings that kind of come to us from the candle lighting that Reba and Barry are going to lead us in this evening. Mm-hmm.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Yom Tov. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
A blessing for the new year. May it be your will, Eternal One, our God and God of all generations, that the year 5782 bring to us and the whole house of Israel life and peace, joy and exaltation, redemption and comfort, and let us say,
Amen.
Amen. The call to worship, the Baruch Hu. Page 13. Please rise as you are able or in spirit.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamborach, Baruch Adonai Hamevorach, Leolam Vaed.
Praise Adonai, to whom all praise is due. Praise be Adonai, to whom all praise is due, forever and ever. You may be seated. And so our journey begins, as it does at this point in every evening and every morning worship service. The liturgy from here through Micha Mocha leads us from the blessing that is creation to the blessing of freedom when we cross the sea. In between, we get to taste what a relationship with that which is greater than ourselves, that which is divine, holy, that which we call God, might look like and feel like when we listen and pay attention and are open to and see the amazing gifts we receive each and every day. We stand at Sinai every time we recite these prayers, and it is there that we might hear what's next, what's on the horizon, where will our journey take us today and tomorrow. For creation, we read responsively on page 15. Alone, I marvel at the evening sky, gold caressing blue, blue caressing dark.
Here in prayer, I need to see your hand behind the sky, your creative words once more forming light and darkness. I need to see the care with which you carve the moon, the stars, which make of fearful darkness nurturing night.
The mixture that brings evening forth from day, morning from night, has been shaped, like Adam from the earth, by you.
You are praised. El Chai V'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Leolam Va'ed, Baruch Atah Adonai, Hamari V'Rahavim. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael, Amcha Ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, b'shachveinu u'b'kumeinu, nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'b'mitzvotecha, le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu, v'yorech yameinu, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, יומם ולילה. ויעבדך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
We continue on page 18.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod, Malchuto Leolam Vaed. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
So we've just done the first paragraph of the Shema. We're actually going to go to the second paragraph of the Shema, where we're going to read together the first 3 sentences on page 22. If we can hear the words from Sinai, then love will flow from us, and we shall serve all that is holy with all our intellect and all our passion and all our life. If we can serve all that is holy, we shall be doing all that humans can to help the rains to flow, the grasses to be green, the grains to grow up golden like the sun, and the rivers to be filled with life once more. All the children of God shall eat, and there will be enough.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Page 27. As our forebears sang your praises all alone by the reed sea, so we sing your praises here, in the hopes that soon, in our days, we may be joined by the great chorus of all the nations of the world. Mi chamocha is on page 29.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, Norah tehilot osef eleh, malchutcha ra'u banecha, boki hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Zeli anu v'yamru, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. V'nehemar, kifada Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miyad chazak mimenu, baruch ata Adonai, Gahal Yisrael.
So we've been on a journey, and now we get to take a little time to rest. A prayer for peace on page 31. Just the first 2 paragraphs together. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God, and peace. Help us, O Majesty, to stand up to life. Spread over us your peace-filled sukkah, that through your good counsel we might be repaired.
Ushmor tzeiteinu uvoenu l'chaim u'l'shalom me'ata v'yad olam ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha baruch ata Adonai haporei sukat Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Amo Yisrael, V'al Yerushalayim.
So we have to put in a part of the service that at least reminds us that we're not doing any liturgy for just any day, because it really is all the same as to what we've just done. So we acknowledge what this day is, and we will, Rabbi Kevin will chant the verses, actually it's verses from 4 and 5 from Psalm 81 that tells us about this day of shofar. We're on page 33.
Tikohu v'chodesh shofar v'kesel yom chagenu ki chok liYisrael hu mishpat Elohei Yaakov.
Together in the English, sound tekiah on the shofar on the new moon of Tishri at the dark of the moon, the time of our holy day, for it is a law for Israel, a judgment by the God of Jacob. Hatzi Kaddish, page 34.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash merabah b'yalama divra chirutei v'yamelech malchutei b'chayechon u'b'yamechon u'b'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael b'gala u'b'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam ulal me'amaya yitbarach yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitala shemei dekudsh abrichu leila leila mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran miyalma v'imru amen.
We are about to engage ourselves in the Amidah, Hatzafilah, the prayer. Amidah means standing. We stand in spirit or in body, depending on how we can best do it. Yet the idea of the Amidah is, it is a prayer that if we read what's written, and it's been written for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, or if we read what's right here in our heart, if we really pay attention to that, we are able to help get ourselves ready for this time that we are beginning tonight, for these next 10 days. Listening comes hard to us. We can sing and read and look, taste and smell and touch, but listening comes hard to us. Other people's joy and tragedy enter our minds, but listening to the person behind the joy, letting in the person underneath the tragedy, that takes hard concentration and a strong will. But the new year is to be listened for. Please rise in body or in spirit as you are able, as you desire, for the silent Amidah. Search your hearts, the prayers that are written. Something may jump out at you. It goes from pages 37 to 58. You can take as long as you need and be seated when you're finished. And Rabbi Kevin will lead us in on page 37.
Adonai, Svatai tiftach, Ufi yagid tehilatecha. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh
60.
shalom aleinu. V'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael.
Kaddish Shalem on page 59.
Yitgadal v'yitgada shemei Rabba. Amen. V'yahalma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. Amen. V'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayedecho beit Yisrael b'gala u'v'zman kariv v'yimeru. Amen. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam u'l'olmei olmaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu le'ela le'ela mitbirchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran v'yalma v'yimeru. Amen. Amen. Titkabel sloton uvaton dechol Yisrael. Amen. Kadam avuhon divishemaya v'yimeru. Amen. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayima aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen.
Amen. The first Chadisha, I call it the Chadisha Kaddish. When Kevin and I first did services last year, I said, I hope you know this, because if you don't know this, it's going to ruin my high holidays. So, because I think it is one of the most uplifting, spirited melodies of all these days. And so we get to do it a whole bunch throughout Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So I hope that as we go throughout Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, you'll belt out those amens with me. And know that it's like I'm up here dancing. You know, the high holidays got to be a little light too. So we do take a moment to remember those in our families, those in our communities, those around us, those in hospitals, to say some words of healing. And while it is customary for us to go around the room and have people mention names, we're not going to do that. We're actually going to ask you all at once, those of you who are sitting in the sanctuary and those of you who are out in YouTube land, to just mention the names of those people that you would like to receive, to hear our healing prayer, which we will sing on page 179 after we have a moment to hear the names. So go for it.
Mi shebeira Mikor habracha le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu, mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
I have the privilege and the honor to introduce our darshan, our speaker for this evening, who is the Executive Vice President of the Board of Directors of the Seaside Jewish Community, Todd Hacker, who will join us in a moment and share with us some words of Torah.
Recently, I was lucky enough to get together with friends who I haven't seen in person for 12 years. Of course, the obvious question is to ask what's new. And in this case, she went straight to the how's your love life? The last time we had an opportunity to see each other was at my wedding in 2009, and soon after, she and her wife moved to the West Coast. We stayed in touch through social media, but hadn't really had a good conversation in person. I had since divorced and lived in 4 different places and 3 different states. I talked a little about leaving my partner of 7 years and the fact that I was dating someone for a year and a half, but we had just broken up a few days prior to my friend's visit to Rehoboth. "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that," was her response. With gratitude, I said thank you and started going on into how I've become to terms with so many abrupt and in many cases unplanned changes in my life, especially in the past 5 years. You see, it's not really that upsetting to me over any of this. If I beat myself up over mistakes or bad choices that I've made, I can never be excited for the changes that are about to come. I put my energy into looking forward rather than second-guessing my past. Each event is like a new chapter in my life, and when one thing ends, it is on to the next new beginning. We talked a little more about what I meant by that, but as it turns out, my philosophy became a great way to share my thoughts on starting 5782. I won't bore you with starting at chapter 1 of Todd's book of experiences, but I would like to fast forward to some of the more interesting parts when it seemed that life was about to make a major change. One of my most profound changes was that I made between my sophomore and junior years of college. My parents had divorced when I was in kindergarten, and soon after, my family was blessed to have my mom marry my stepdad. I always explain to people that when I refer to my dad in stories, I am technically talking about my stepdad. He is the one who I shared most of my life with. In the rare occasions that I refer to my father, I am talking about the man who I shared DNA with. I hadn't had any contact with my father since my sister's wedding in 1993. And as I hit the midpoint of my college years, I started to think about what my life would look like after graduation. One thing I knew for sure is that I did not want to have any connections to my father. I especially did not want his name on my college diploma. I could have taken my dad's last name, but he was an only child, and I didn't have any other ties to his family, except a distant cousin who lived in New Jersey. I had always felt strong connection to my mom's family, especially my grandparents. so the logical thing was to take my mom's maiden name. The only awkward part was trying to explain to my friends why I made this choice. And I had to update all of my school records, my driver's license, social security card, and everything else that went along with that. This involved a couple legal steps, but after it was over, I felt proud of what I had done and was blessed to have my mom and dad's support. It was especially meaningful to me since my grandfather had passed away my freshman year of college, and his name was my middle name. So to me, it feels like I am carrying his legacy, even 24 years after he passed. So the chapter of my life where I was known as Todd Schuler ended, and a new beginning, living as Todd Hacker, had begun. The next new beginning that would significantly define my life came about 1.5 years later. I grew up in a Christian home, but I wouldn't call our family particularly religious. I even worked as a camp counselor for 5 summers at our church camp. But while in college, I started to be really drawn to Judaism. It wasn't strange to me because many of my friends growing up were Jewish. But now I had an opportunity to explore even deeper, especially thanks to my friend Jamie, who invited me to participate in our campus Hillel activities. My relationship with Jamie was stronger than any other person I was connected to outside of my family. She was the first straight person who I came out to. In fact, her mother knew I was gay before I even came out to my own mother. That would come later, but I consider my relationship with Jamie's family as my extended Jewish family. By my senior year of college, I would decide to convert to Judaism. This created a need for all other kinds of explanations. My family, again, was very supportive, and in fact, I still remember my mom's words to me, "I'm just happy that you found something you believe in." And Jamie passed away in December 2000, the December after we graduated together from college. I wrote Jamie's family a very long letter thanking them for what a big part she had in my life and expressing how much Jamie's friendship meant to me. What I didn't know was that Jamie's mom would put all of these letters and condolence cards in a scrapbook for people to read while the family sat Shiva. At this point, I was really only out to a few very close friends in my family. I remember being mortified once I knew so many people would read my letter to Jamie's family. She was a very beloved member of our college community, and besides the fact her parents were very special people in their own right, so there was plenty of opportunity for people to read my letter. Once things quieted down, I had lunch with one of my college professors. She had told me, "Your letter to Jamie's parents was really special. I learned so much about you. I didn't even know you converted." My response to that was, "Oh, I bet you didn't know I was gay either." We had a laugh about it, but I realized after a couple of months that I had unknowingly come out to the entire college community because of this letter. I had lost one friend over it, but nothing else changed. Suddenly, I realized that, hey, everyone knows I'm gay now, and everything's okay. I know this certainly isn't the norm for many people, even still in 2021. But for me, another new beginning and another chapter had begun. I knew I could comfortably live my life as Todd Hacker, a gay Jew. Now let's fast forward a few chapters to 2020. In the past 18 months, we have all struggled with how to navigate safely through this horrible pandemic. For me personally, I've embraced it. But I remember my last trip to my regular barber was actually around this time last year when I got my hair cut right before Rosh Hashanah. Later, I decided that I was uncomfortable having my barber, who wasn't as conscientious about wearing a mask as I was, breathing on me. My hair continued to grow, and I learned that I actually had wavy hair. I catch myself wondering, though, sometimes, what would my grandfather have said to me now? All these years that I knew him, he had a buzz cut and would always threaten to take my brother and me to his barber if we went to visit him and our hair was long enough that it touched our ears. But I remember seeing pictures of him when he was young and the gorgeous head of wavy hair that he had. So at least for now, I'm embracing it, even if it wasn't planned to be my long, hairy chapter. And maybe by next Rosh Hashanah, I will go back to my barber. This pandemic chapter was also an opportunity to relearn what is important to life that we often take for granted. I've reached out to friends to make sure they are okay, making an extra effort to pick up the phone rather than just like someone's status on Facebook. I also spent a lot more time at home than I ordinarily would have spent. I don't like to stand still and consequently focused on some new beginnings at home. I put in a new patio, and my dad helped me replace my front and back door to my house. I expanded my native plant garden to help the pollinators and butterflies as they pass through. But one thing for sure is that living through this pandemic has given me opportunity to create new beginnings in my home that will be here to enjoy for many years to come. To quote one of my favorite movies, The Sound of Music, these walls were not meant to shut out our problems. You have to face them. You have to live the life you were meant to live. Soon after making that statement, the Reverend Mother begins her solo, Climb Every Mountain. In my short time on this earth, that is what I have set out to do. I still have mountains ahead of me and problems to face, but they will be the next new beginning for me, like so many mountains I have climbed before. It may not have been an accident that I explained my life as chapters in a book. I have been very blessed to have chapters full of positive life experiences. And now we are looking within ourselves, asking God to inscribe us in the book of life for the coming year. On this eve of 5782, I invite you to ask yourself, what will your new beginning be? Will you reconnect with friends who will challenge you to grow? Will you transition to make Sussex County your year-round residence? Maybe you will forge a new relationship with someone. Maybe you will join a committee here at Seaside. This is such an exciting time to be part of Seaside. We move back into our newly updated and expanding building. We are about to celebrate our 25th year as a community, which you'll start hearing much more about during the next couple of weeks. As you probably know, we are also preparing to hire our first full-time religious leader because our community has grown exponentially, especially during the most recent years. I speak for the entire community when I say thank you to our founders for having the vision to create a new beginning in Sussex County in 1996. Without that first ad in the newspaper inviting the community to a Seder, we all may very well not be sitting here together tonight. May we have a healthy and happy 5782 and add more chapters to our own book of life, and have the strength to face new beginnings with courage and encouragement from those who surround us. Hashanah Tova.
Asher Koch, thank you very much for your inspiring words and for letting us hear a little bit about you. We are about to chant Aleinu. Aleinu means it's upon us. So at the end of every service, when we chant Aleinu, we are reminded that all the stuff that we've done before that, remember it, because it's upon us now to go out into the world and take it and do something with it. So if we really thought that our liturgy was just here to kind of just go through the motions of reciting prayers and making sure that we are here on Rosh Hashanah evening, on Rosh Hashanah day, Yom Kippur, Kol Nidre, all of those things, it's not. It's really here to kind of give us a message and send us off into the world and do actually, as Aleinu says to do, tikkun olam. It is our job to fix the world. That's a pretty tall task in today's day and age. However, it doesn't mean that we should retreat from it either. So Aleinu says it's upon us. We have to figure out what is it that is upon me? What is it that I need to do and I need to make a commitment to in this coming year? Not just repent for all of the things that I didn't do in the past year, but it's also a look forward. It's a message to us to say, okay, it's upon you, everybody, to do something to make some small repair in this world. Again, please rise as you are able. Aleinu is on page 61.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol latei gdula liotzer breshit shelo asanu kigoyei haratzot v'lo samanu k'mishpachot adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam v'anachnu korim ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
We pray that the day be not far off, when all humanity shall find their way to calling on your name, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Not only do we offer prayers for healing during our service, we offer prayers or reminders of those who have gone before us. We keep them in our hearts, we keep them in our minds, we keep them right here with us. So we say Kaddish, mourner's Kaddish, at the end of all of our services. And Kaddish really has nothing to do with death. Kaddish has everything to do with living. And how am I now going to, now that this person in my life is no longer here, person I counted on, how do I go forward? How do I move forward? And Kaddish gives us a way to kind of just settle down and make sure that we can take the next step forward. So I will ask all of those of you in the congregation and in your homes that if you are a mourner, if you are in a 7-day period, a 30-day period, or a year's period since the death of a loved one, ask you to please rise. And to you we say, Hamakom Yinachem Etchem, B'toch Sha'ar Avei Tzion B'Yerushalayim. May God comfort you among all the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. And we know that it is customary for other people to rise for Kaddish as well. And please do so now. We're on page 62. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, B'alma divrach hirutei, B'yamlich malchutei, V'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, V'agala u'bizman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'olam olomei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu la'ela la'ela mikol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata da'amiron bi'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen. May all who mourn be comforted among all of us who are here to give an elbow and say, we're here to comfort you. I would say that we comfort people by embracing them, and we are just at a time where we just can't do that. So, for those of you who are mourners, I hope you feel my elbow as your embrace. Please be seated. So this is a time for announcements. I could just say we start tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I think that's all the announcements that I have. The president of the congregation is shaking his head at me, so I guess that's kind of where we are. We will conclude our service with singing Adon Olam. Oh, Tashlech. I did. So some of you, I think, have already registered for Tashlech. I believe Reva and Barry, you've been in charge of that, and I assume that everything is now going forward, and those people who need to know where they're going know where they're going. We won't be here. Adon Olam is on page 65.
Adon Olam Asher Mahalach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa V'chepso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nohora V'hu Haya V'hu Hoveh V'hu Yiyeh B'tifara V'hu Yiyeh B'tifara V'hu Echad V'yein Sheni Lehachilo Lehachbira Believe Reshi Believe Tachlit V'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra V'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra V'hu Eli v'chai go'ali V'tzur chavli b'yetzara V'hu nisi u'manos li Minat kosi b'yom mekra Minat kosi b'yom mekra B'yado afki ruchi Ishan v'yayira V'im ruchi geviati Adonai li v'lo ira Adonai li v'lo ira.
In God's hand I entrust the breath through which I live when I sleep and when I rise. Along with my breath, God has my body. Adonai is with me. I have no fear. Shana Tova till tomorrow morning.
Shana Tova.